everybody, welcome back. I'm Leslie Youngblood, joined again by Jason Ray from Zenith Solutions. And we are continuing to have a conversation about different finance challenges and topics related to small businesses today. And right now we're going to dive into a topic that's aligning expenses and investment with mission. It's not as complicated sounding as other finance terms, but it's still technical, and I feel like it's extremely pertinent and top of mind right now. So Jason, can you explain what it is and why it's so important?
Definitely. So, I think every business has a why, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why they do the things that they do and their purpose and maybe their just cause statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a pressure to achieve your why and your mission as a business, but also to, establish profitability and grow your margins. I think when we look at past CEOs and leaders throughout history, we've seen, both really succeed, right? I think Jack Welch at GE was very focused on, profits and expanding margins, right? And you look at somebody like Bill Gates, whose, sole mission was to make people more productive in the workplace, right? And, so I think, having a mission is critical, and defining that with your organization, but also with your customers is the first step. But, I think aligning what you spend your money on as it relates to people or, new programs or, improvements to your products should all be somewhat relatable to that mission and purpose that you have. There's a number of frameworks that have come out, like the B Corp framework, Benefit Corp, that talks about more, just a different way to think about social capitalism, right? And kind of businesses' responsibility to, improve their communities and really have not just a profits bottom line, but an impact bottom line as well. I think thinking about your business in that way is really important. It's difficult if you haven't been doing it, but I think once you start, you'll find that you'll probably have higher customer loyalty, right? And it makes it much more clear, I think, as well, how to make money related decisions, because it all kind of funnels back to that one North Star.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think that we've talked before with COVID shutdowns and as people are turning, becoming more, social justice issues are top of mind right now. And I think that consumers their eyes are maybe, hopefully, I think so, a bit more open to where they're taking their money, right? And like, they're looking for businesses that are doing the work and not just saying that, but like they are exemplifying their missions or have missions that consumers are relating to or like, and want to be a part of. Are you seeing the same thing, do you think?
Absolutely. And I think I see it on two ends, right? Number one is, customers and prospects that are engaging with my business for financial education and advice, but also my current clients and my own investment criteria, right? As we look to invest personal or business funds, we're looking for investments that not only generate return, but the company either has some kind of social impact or does something that the person cares about. So I talked about Bill Gates a little earlier, but you think about Microsoft, right? They have it's clear how they make money. They're in a growth market, but also they've kind of integrated racial and gender equity hiring practices within their organization. They have a low carbon footprint, right? So, they're doing things kind of the right way so that, their criteria is not just profits, but also doing things that I think are important to their customers, right? Now you mentioned kind of social justice issues today. I think we're seeing a lot more corporations pledge, that Black Lives Matter and that they're going to invest in Black communities. And, I would encourage businesses to think about how they think about Black talent as well, right? I mentioned Microsoft, but there's not a Black executive in their C-suite, right? And I think, there's a lot of room for growth. And I think if your mission is to be equitable and, promote equality, and your mission ties into that, those are things that you really need to think hard as an organization about.
Right. I agree. Now, I think one term that you mentioned before too is social capitalism. And I don't know if many people are familiar with the term. And I feel like it's kind of been bubbling the past maybe like couple of years and whatnot. And I think we even did maybe a Tuesdays at 2 about it. Gosh, I don't know if it was this year or even last year, but can you talk a little bit about social capitalism and what it means?
Definitely, yeah. And I'll give you my own, definition, but I
Yeah.
would certainly encourage you to check out the the B Corp framework around,
Sure.
social capitalism. And,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it really, businesses for so long, and, I watch a lot of like Warren Buffett, old content. He's
Sure.
talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
what makes a good business, and it's all about margin and profitability. I think capitalism breeds that, that system around just like squeezing every dollar out of your products and your margins, and
People.
cutting costs and people, right? I think social capitalism is turning that focus to use those profits that you are generating and that you're creating within your margins, to benefit and have a purpose, right? So
Mm-hmm.
using your margin to promote some purpose, not to, involve your own compensation or shareholder
Mm-hmm.
compensation, right? And I think that's the big point in the benefit corp, right? It's,
Mm-hmm.
company managers don't just have an obligation to shareholders first, right?
Right.
Their obligation is to their customers, their employees, shareholders, and their
Mm-hmm.
community, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's many different elements of, who the organization has to answer to, I guess, if you
Right.
will. I'm probably butchering this a little bit. I don't have it in front of me, but
No, that's I think essentially right. I mean, it's just the
yeah,
overall idea is that it's more than straight capitalism. You think like greed is good, but it's like more than that, and it's the social aspect and doing well by doing good and do well in that situation. And I think that more people are, sustainability is a big thing, right? And in fashion and in general, when you mentioned about Microsoft and how they, their carbon footprint is low, but they still have ways to go in certain other aspects, right?
right.
But I just think it's interesting, and I think it's a term that's going to become more prevalent as we continue to move forward. So thank you for that. You did it. That was worked for me.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
certainly agree. I think and I think it's a necessary change. I
Yeah, I
think
agree. Mm-hmm.
corporations have a responsibility, and even small businesses, right? It's not
Right,
just
right,
corporations, right?
right.
Business in general, I think, has a responsibility to develop the community and
Mm-hmm.
promote the purposes that are important to them and their
Right,
stakeholders.
right, right.
So I
We
think
don't
putting an
operate. Yeah,
emphasis, you don't operate in a bubble.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Everybody affects each other. Like, so just think about COVID, how it spreads, right? Like even a small interaction, and it's like, but that's, I think, almost can be a metaphor for business. Like your business is even like goes out into the world. And so how do you want to be, what impact do you want to have, right? And I know when we talk about, aligning expenses and investment with the mission, like how do you measure that impact, right? Like how might an owner do that, or what might they see or hope for?
Definitely. Yeah. I think there's really two metrics that I would look at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is number one is more of a profitability metric. And
Mm-hmm.
it's, how much revenue is your business generating,
Mm-hmm.
for the amount of assets that the business has. So look
Hmm.
at your total sales and divide it by your total assets. It'll
Mm-hmm.
show you how, efficiently you're using the assets of your business to generate income and
Hmm.
sales. Any
Mm-hmm.
ratio over
Mm-hmm.
one I think it's very good, but it's
Mm-hmm.
industry dependent, right? So think
Mm-hmm.
about that metric, right? Okay,
Hmm.
are we able to generate income based on our mission and our product and service?
Right.
And the second step is looking at your, profit loss, digging into your expense file and
Hmm.
dividing each expense on your line item by your total expenses, right?
Hmm.
And using that
Hmm.
equation, you can see which expenses are the largest expenses that your business incurs, all the way down to the smallest,
Wow.
and taking a look at those largest expenses and saying, is me spending money on this item,
Mm-hmm.
pushing forward the mission of my business and what I
Right.
think the why of my business,
Right.
is,
What would
right?
be an example of that, Jason? Like, what would be something that maybe they're like, oh, why am I doing this? Or like, was there something you can think of? I don't know. I can't think of anything, but I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
I think a great example is a school, right? So a school's purpose is to educate students, right? So when you look, if a school was a business, when you look at, and a school is an organization, you can look at their 990, but their largest expense should be on probably teachers, right? Because the teachers are the core aspect of educating the students. So investing not only in paying teachers, but investing in the teacher development, right? So how can we empower this teacher to teach better? And how can we arm them now with virtual tools to better engage their student, right? And how can we make sure this teacher is comfortable in this learning environment to benefit? So, right, your largest expense should be that. Right. So another example should be, could be restaurants, right? I think I gave that in our last conversation, but what are you trying? I think the carbon footprint and food waste, right, is important, right? So how much money are you spending on purchasing food versus how much money you're spending on maybe food waste and getting food out? Could you be repurposing that expense to, like, your mission is to feed people good food. Could you be repurposing some of that food waste into donating to food banks and feeding homeless people, right?
Right.
So I think, digging into each one of your expenses in that method can be eye-opening.
Sure.
But also help you, in the future kind of say, wow, I spent, 3% of my expenses as a restaurant owner were to, like, getting rid of food that was still edible, right? Could we take that 3% and feed 20 homeless people or 100 homeless people by donating to the local food bank, right? So, I think small changes like that push forward your mission in big ways, right? I think communicating that now to your stakeholders, to your, your eaters, if you're a restaurant,
sure, your team,
your team and the public is very important, right? I think people, eaters and the public are looking for this information from restaurants, right? I think people, there's a lot of good food out there, but, like, what is your favorite restaurant doing to better the world? Right. Not only just serving good food, they expect that, right? What do they want to experience a feeling of purpose and mission when they come into the restaurant, right? And I think identifying those expenses that could be maybe used and repurposed for things that push forward your mission, could be key.
Yeah, that's I don't think people realize that no matter what business they're in, they can break that down. And, like, if they just go through and just maybe think and kind of see, then, like, they'll be able to find, like, a way to do that in, like, whether it's a restaurant or, a retail store or, your Microsoft or a tech startup or what have you. Like, there are opportunities. And I just think, people might think, like, oh, I'm busy, or, oh, I don't have the money, or I don't have, like, something. But, like, if you go through and just break it down, there's always, like, something little you can do. And it doesn't have to be big, right? Like, it can be, like, super small, because it all, like we talked, like, it all ripples out and it all makes a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think to that point, it is profits for purpose is kind of the lingo, and I mentioned that first metric I mentioned is based around income and revenue. So, you can't make a purpose if you're not generating any revenue. So I think that's the first step, right? People are saying, well, I don't have enough, I need to figure. I think the first mission is, like, the best way to make a purpose is to make money to make that purpose and make that come to fruition. So it's certainly important to think about. But yeah, identifying expenses is huge, right? And I think we help businesses do that all the time. I would love to offer a complimentary consultation to people that want to go through that, because I think it's eye-opening, right? I think it's a helpful exercise.
That's awesome. So again, anybody that's watching this video, if you are interested in having Jason and Zenith Solutions open your eyes to and break down some expenses and line items to see where you could possibly start putting more investment towards your company's mission, hit him up. And Jason, what's your email? We'll put it on the screen too, but.
Yeah, it's Jason at networth, like wealth, zenith.com. So Jason at networthzenith.com.
Awesome. And then what's Zenith Solutions website, Jason?
So it's the same, www.networthzenith.com.
Awesome.
And Networth Zenith is our Instagram handle as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Follow him on Instagram. We'll probably be doing some IG lives too with Jason. Again, reach out, check them out if you are interested in learning more about how to invest more in your company's mission in simple ways, right? Like you can do it. It's not like a giant lift. It's just something, and Jason and his team will show you how simple it truly is. So thank you for joining us, Jason. Anything else you'd like to add about investment into a company's mission before we go?
Yeah, no, I think thank you again for the conversation, Leslie. It's a pleasure to join. And
Likewise.
I love talking about investing with a purpose and with a mission, something I'm doing on a daily basis. And I love to share education and best practices and just other examples that I've learned. So I'm happy to take this conversation offline, but it's been a pleasure to join. Thank you.
Same. Thank you so much, Jason. We'll have him back soon and hope you all join us too. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you.
Bye.